Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We have Zaramis with us once again on the Swindle Dust Chronicles to go over episode 2 of the matchup watch. Today, we're going to be covering further down the ladder. We've got silver and bronze. Last week we did diamond and gold. If you're curious about those and you haven't seen them, you want to catch up, you can find those on the Swindle Dust Chronicles YouTube, which is going to be linked in the chat. Today, the matchup for silver we're going to be covering is between Wych and Player Hurp, and then we have in bronze we're going to be going over SithofAngmar and yrstruly's matchup. I think going to be four very interesting lineups, two very interesting matchups, and yeah, I can't wait to get into them. So welcome in, Zaramis.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's once again lovely to be here, and I've heard a rumor that there is at least 2 DT decks in today's matchup watch, which we're of course extremely excited over.
Yes, there is absolutely at least two Dark Tidings decks.
At least. Do you hear that? At least 2 Dark Tidings decks.
So the best set is going to be well represented.
That's
also,
where we're at now.
Welcome in Dinobot, welcome in Dataforge, and welcome in Southerly Elf.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Gunnar or Wish is possibly watching as well. He already wrote me and said, "Oh, I see you're streaming." So I gave him some gossip that he will be featured today. For those who don't know it, Wish is my one of my 2 Keyforge partners in crime that I open a lot of decks with, play a lot of sealed with, and yeah, we have been following each other since season 9, I think. Yep, he's there. Western in chat.
Welcome in. Hopefully we can do your lineup justice. Hopefully I can do your lineup justice, and Zaramis can similarly.
Yeah, it's a unique thing, since I've been more or less part of seeing these decks being picked out and hearing all the reasoning behind it. So I will try to add a later kind of analysis and let Murph do a lot of the initial impressions, because it's hard for me to do initial impressions of it.
Very fair.
Gorlami is not here. Thank you
unwelcome.
Yeah, unwelcome.
Yeah, unwelcome, Gorlami.
Are we starting with the 6 Worlds Collide decks lineup then?
We are starting with the 6 Worlds Collide decks lineup, which belongs to Wych. So
where are they in the table right now? Are they both at 1-2, I believe?
Let me go to their division. So Wych is sitting at they're both 1 and 2. Player Hurp is a slightly worse key difference at -3.
So it's an extremely important matchup for them both in order to be able to have a chance to climb into those being solidly in the middle rather than in the dangerous red arrow territory. Whoever wins this one establishes a slightly more solid position in the division, even if it's still early.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're being in those red arrow territories can be a bit concerning. However, it's really
very wonderful if you're up in diamond, it's very wonderful that you're in those red territories, because it means you don't have to stress as much soon.
That's true. Yeah, you can phone in the rest of your games. But yeah, they're risking everyone in this division. Even Scurzio there at the top is still at risk of having the season turn around on them and ending up at the bottom there.
So, will you take us away?
Yep. So once again, I will go through the names of all 6 of the decks. I'll bring us right back, and we'll go through them one at a time from the beginning. So we have a Worlds Collide and Gurgendy's the Earnest. There are 6 Worlds Collide decks, so just letting you know, they're all Worlds Collide. We have Ravenous Mean Machine Onvir, Zero Box the Chasm Guide, They Who Frequently Condones the Public, good name, and the Madam of Crownway, and Panoskull the Frothing Ballroom Outlaw.
All right.
And so starting off here, we've got Gurgendy's the Earnest, which is a Logo Saurian Star Alliance. The first thing that jumps off the page to me is a United Action.
Scrambler Storm.
No, I was going to say United Action. United Action is one of my favorite rares. I absolutely love it. The Scrambler Storm, yes. That is no stealth mode on top of it, that'd be brutal. But the Scramble Storm there is very fitting for this deck and very fitting for Worlds Collide. But man, Scrambler Storm and Stealth Mode are brutal cards.
But what do we think about United Action when there's 0 artifacts? Isn't that a bit of a rough spot to be in?
I think less so, because this this deck has some pretty sticky board to it. And you've got stuff like the Medic Grim to do some warding. Because really, you just need the creatures to stick. Obviously, artifacts, and you also have Are there any where are the upgrades? Not Alpha House.
Yeah.
But like you've got stuff like the Titan Guardians, which your opponent's not really going to want to get rid of most of the time. 20 creatures, a lot of those ending up in the Star Alliance. But I'm imagining probably what you want to be using mostly is... It's also hard, right? Because United Action gets a lot less value in really board heavy decks because you can't use any of your creatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and with this quality of creatures in Star Alliance, if you
I
have any of them out there, you tend to like a Gray, an Ingram, Frayne, Kirby, Walls with 3 blasters or 3 blasters.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good Star Alliance board to be using.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the value in this deck is severely diminished, and I think it's not going to add to... I actually don't know how much. It only adds 1.5 efficiency, which is kind of wild.
16, you mean? Oh, you mean United Action? Yeah, it has a pretty low.
Yeah, it only has 1.5, which I think is pretty... The fact it has less than Kirby.
But what will provide value if United Action is not a star card in this deck? The archiving the 2 Edice in combination with the Tribute Exile is of course and the Gray is of course the centerpiece of a deck like this. Like establish big board and then you have the Tribute combo that.
Yep, and you've got some pretty good protection in the Imperiums. Unfortunately, no Ancient Power. That'd be wonderful. But I think you've got...
But also not that much. It doesn't have all that much exalting actually for being Saurian. It doesn't have any of the regular exalting. It has Frayne that can spread out a bit, but
yep, and it's also got Stomp, which is gonna... Stomp is probably gonna spread around some Amber. Chant of Hubris to manipulate a bit if you're not moving it to enemy creatures. And then you also have Theros Centurion and Pompatus.
The big obvious holes here are the 5.5 creature control,
which is a classic Worlds Collide problem.
Yes. Where especially in these houses.
Yes, where this deck is probably not going to be if you have a board, it probably can't do anything except fight into them.
Yep.
Which it has some tools to do that. It has some tools in the Titan Guardians and the Legatus Raptors and whatnot. But geez, that is
but I mean, like so many of these Worlds Collide decks, it's a deck that says, well, you have to get rid of my creatures.
Yes. Exactly. And I think with the this looks like a very consistent Tribute Exile with the three sources of the
like archiving. Just on the spot archiving, a targeted archiving, definitely.
Yeah. And I can very well see like the Code Monkeys archiving away. I like stuff like the Star Alliance to get other play effects out. Like you've got really good Code Monkey targets here as well.
Yeah, or just Ida, archive, and then you bring up a big turn, and then you archive something new, and so on.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got the Cutthroat Research as well to partner with the Edis to punish people because you tax them, they have to go to 8 or whatever, and then
Yeah. I have a feeling that this might be a bit of a theme for these decks of witches.
You've got a hunch.
Should we go to the next one? So this is a speedy. But it has 15 pips, and here's a bit of a different beast from the earlier one actually.
Yes, we have 18 actions. 18 actions with 12 speed. So this thing is playing out of hand. We've got the Double Nature's Call, Ghost Hawk. We got Exhume, Harvest Time, Infernus, Rock Rub.
17 pips with 2 Nature's Call.
Pips. The fact that it's 18 creatures, 17 pips is kind of wild. And then we have one artifact in the Vineapple Tree. Great card.
Unlike the previous deck, this one has artifact control as well, like hard R in
Yes.
the Harvest Time, for example.
Absolutely. And in the Rustnar.
Yeah, but
not to be forgotten. You know what? It can live sometimes. It can do some work. And it's got the Dr. Millie, which I always love. I think Dr. Millie can be super flexible. Unfortunately, it's not optional how many archives, so sometimes it can be like, finicky to play around that way. But overall, Nature's Call is super strong. It's not gonna be good in everything, but again, it does suffer from pretty low creature control, where if you're not getting value off of the Cauldron Boil, you're gonna have a hard time getting things off the field.
it does feel like a deck that basically it will just spit out ridiculous amounts of Ember and can get rid of any like capture and so on with a very good Nature's Call targets. And then the Harvest Time to get rid of any destroyed. Like I think this is a deck that just puts on a ridiculous pressure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the 12 speed looks pretty, fairly real with the Tau Vapors, Wild Wormhole, Igor, Edai, Dr. Millie, all those. I think those are all look fairly. And
I think the Dr. Millie is big here, like a regrowth. If someone has a big board, you remove the bad creatures with Nature's Call, then you regrowth the Dr. Millie. Dr. Millie like archives your hand into the E and the Fringes or and so on.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think there's some really good plays here, and this gives me very much like a tempo. This gives me sort of tempo vibes to it, where it's really looking to deal with.
It doesn't put out any threats that the other person needs to answer. This doesn't put out like the Kirby's and the Greys and so on. It basically doesn't want to use its board at all. Is my first reaction to seeing this. It uses the board by putting it down Ghost Hawks. That's the extent of its.
Yeah, pretty much. And then otherwise it's just trying to create more Amber and just delay the opponent, disrupt their hands. The Nature's Call can be great, really great for that.
Yep, and an Infernus to boot, just to.
Yes, which is a nice Nature's Call or Exhume target.
Definitely, yeah. A pretty not very VC-like VC deck.
Yes.
Looks much more like a Kota deck in how I expect it to play.
We have Zero Box, the Chasm Guide, which is a Dis Logo Star Alliance.
What does this deck do?
It's a great question. That's what I'm trying to figure out what this deck does. This is a 24 creature deck has 2 board wipes in the Red Alert and the Harbinger of Doom, with no way of killing the Harbinger of Doom.
And with a lot of creatures and not finished with you. Wait, what can we puzzle together here? What does this deck do? It has Valjerico. It has Lord Invidious. It has 2 leaders. That's pretty cool.
It does. Got a Helmsman Spears. Has a Replicator. It's actually a Replicator is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, in this one, it's actually has some pretty good effects there.
Yes, the Replicator has really good targets. So like you have a big expansion. I mean, just the Helmsman Spears alone as a reap target for
Info Officer Grey, Lord Invidious.
Yeah, we got we have Psionic Officer Lang as well, which is really cool. I think that is option to Witch.
Yeah, Lang and Candle Unit. Yeah. Man, does this deck hate people reaping? Like, do you want to let me draw 1 card, archive 1 card?
Yeah, and they're both. I mean, Psionic Officer Lang isn't too sticky to get rid of, but Candle Unit is exceptionally annoying.
And then Automaton will stay on the board. Replicator can. Babbling Bibliophile is also a good target for Replicator.
Yeah, you can definitely do some shenanigans with about Captain Valjerico being out. And
also not finished with you exactly into Star Alliance that has some ridiculous value. Grey, Kirby, Jericho, Lang. I don't want to.
I can very easily see lines of Captain Valjerico off the not finished with you to get back your Star Alliance, and then Helmsman Spears the rest of your hand back, and then I feel like it's
it
gonna
looks
be
like a deck that is tricky. Tricky is the word I would like to use for this deck. It looks shit on the in the like arc value.
yeah, it does. It really looks like this deck is like it's one of these, if I'm playing Moirai, this is something that is shove into adaptive because
23 speed, but it's like, what does it do?
yeah, like, what does it do with that speed? Because it only has 9 pips. But yeah, Universal Translator and Chan. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a deck that the more you look at it, the more you find these like, wait, but here and this thing interact with this thing, and it has the hard R in Poltergeist.
Really good R. Yeah, it's also got Library of the Damned to like get
and
increment
and
value.
Infernus just sneakily in there.
And Snag, which is a really great uncommon for Dis.
Definitely, especially when you have a Chan, you can use the Snag with the Starlines and then keep playing Starlines.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and stealth mode as well for some disruption. Tauta Vapors to set it up.
Just has a lot of small tricks.
Yeah, it does absolutely. And like the Lilithal is going to be probably some pretty decent tempo, and then 23 speed. It's kind of those things where like the Kirby is giving 3.29 speed, but I have a feeling the Kirby might not be getting as much value as it nearly could be, just because
with
there's
two
only 10
not
actions.
finished with you.
Well, I mean that's fair, but at the same time, like I guess the actions are all very valuable. Because the actions are all cut through research, Tauta Vapors, Temple missions. Like they're all things you're very happy to.
And they're not in Starlands.
Yeah, they're not in Star Alliance. That is true. That is true.
All right, let's move on.
We'll move on. Well, it's an interesting deck. It's an interesting deck.
Yep.
I think it's one of the things where it's like I really have to play this to really see how all of that comes together. This one sort of hits you in the face a little bit more in terms of what it's doing. It's got the Coliseum. I don't know. It's got the Coliseum with Cincinnati's Rex, which is super cool. And does it have a?
It has 2 Legatus Raptors.
What time is your game versus Karen, Riku? It's not right now. Isn't it on Wednesday?
We don't only cover the Swindle lineups, but if it's right now, yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, I was worried it was right now.
There's no guarantees either way. I mean, if Karen's playing it, I'm sure she can also stream it.
But we had already done Diamond, so we're working our way down through the divisions.
Yeah, we have to give some love to all the divisions, Riku.
But yeah, so we have a Colosseum with a Brachus.
Yes,
2
and a
Legatus
Shrix.
Raptor. So it can use the Colosseum with the Ember on the creatures. And it wants to fight a lot. The Colosseum just forges a key for cost, and it can use the Ember on Brachus and
that's so cool. Oh, awesome! That is actually so cool. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize that.
Is it the Colosseum an Omni as well?
Is it? Yeah, it's an Omni. Yeah, so you can do it off of.
You can exhume in this, exhume up a Brachus, then forge the key with Ember that you have on creatures.
Yeah. And you've got the Obsidian Forge as well for a second. This deck has 2 key cheats that are very live, which is kind of crazy.
With 3 exhumes, you can get both pips and more creatures out for the Obsidian Forge.
Yeah, and you can probably do some silly things with like exhuming out the Kirby's to play the.
Or why not exhume Morpheus? Then
yeah, you could exhume Morpheus. I mean, Stash Lobster Boom just to mess with everyone.
This is
Walls to beef up your Legatus Raptors or.
And here's a little small secret, but this deck was the winner of our 144 Worlds Collide deck tournament that we played.
Wow,
12 displays of Worlds Collide, and this deck took home it all.
That's very impressive. Yeah, and like it's got Sarah, it's got Theros and Trin. Like everything in Saurian is happy to fight. And you know what? You load up a Legatus Raptor with all the Amber. It has like 1 damage left on it. You just ping it over off with the Exile.
Yep.
This is
Kirby or with anything in there. It feels like it can do anything in the different houses. You can like exhume a Kirby to play an Exile, or you can.
Yeah, no, it's almost like it's one of those things where it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't have an Infernus, but like doesn't need it.
It has a walls as well, so you can exhume a Kirby, then get the walls to get the Kirby's blaster to
Yep.
put on there.
Oh man, Kirby's blaster is dirty.
When you can constantly keep it coming back. Yep.
Yeah, wow. And the Psi Officer Morpheus to with all these play effects.
Yep.
That's crazy.
This deck was very frustrating to play against. If you didn't like clean the entire board, everything just kept coming back, and then they triggered off other things that kept coming back, and you're like,
please stop.
Does 4.3 Ember Control is a lie?
Absolutely, that's a lie. Absolutely, that's a lie. And the 3 Fates too, which is probably, I mean, obviously you got some good things here, but like, man, this is and the Cincinnati Rex, like, obviously it's not a Golden Spiral Cincinnati Rex, but like, this is gonna do some real work.
Yep.
Just with the fact of like the Coliseum and Brachus.
Yeah, the Brachus Coliseum combo and Cincinnati Rex is one of when we saw it in action, it was just beautiful. You're like, what the hell? You just forged the key because you just fought a lot with the Ember that you just exalted.
Yep, man, that's really cool. I think this is one of the coolest decks this is one of the coolest decks we've looked at so far.
Yep, I agree. And I'm happy that we're covering it because it's a very unique one.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the next. Well, I actually, what did I just do?
This is not...
I don't know what just happened, but I will go back. We'll go back and get go back and get the other deck.
One second. Yeah, go back and get that while I say goodnight to my...
This sounds good. I can, we want the Madam of Crownway back in here.
Yep, Madam of Crownway. Let's get Madam of Crownway back.
I don't know whose deck Drop Mixer the Architect Director is, but...
Drop Mixer.
It made a surprise appearance. So we've got the Madam of Crownway, which is a Logosarian Shadows with 25 creatures.
It's very much a Zaramis deck.
Yeah,
this is the archetype of my deck. They can't control the board. They just have a massive board, and they have tricks.
Absolutely, with stuff like the Babbling Bibliophiles, Triple Titan Guardian. Like, this thing has a lot of like odd efficiency.
Bibliophiles with Hisaru or Auto Hisaru is kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Our Order Hisaru is just such a. I mean, it's a little unsuspecting, but does so much work in the right decks.
Really unfortunately, no auras though. That would have been sweet.
Yeah, but again, double Tri-Centurion Legionary, double Thurus Centurion, Senator Shrix, Yarda.
Triple Titan Guardian.
Triple Titan Guardian, yeah, which is weird, which is like odd efficiency, but this can be very good efficiency.
Yeah, if people has to remove your board all the time, then, or if they have to remove your board all the time, then Titan Guardian is surprisingly effective.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, like it has 2 Tri-Centurion Legionary, 7.2 creature protection. With a big board, it's got the Manchigo, which I don't know how often Manchigo gets to go off, but this Manchigo is a cool card, and really, it just quite good if it does end up going off.
Yep, and I mean, board decks can often slow play it quite a lot. Like you play 1 card from hand and you use 4 and so on. So you have, unlike your decks that just roll a lot, you can probably work your way towards the Manchego in a deck like this if it just gets to go in again.
Certainly, yeah.
And then I think that the key in this deck is the TMTP, because without it, there's no real good Ember dump except the Scutum. But with TMTP, as we know from my own lineup, the danger becomes so much more like obvious.
Absolutely, and I think it wishes I kind of wish it would. Oh, can't have everything, but it would be nice if there was slightly more archive instead of just the Edai and the Jargoggle. So that is unfortunate, but it does have the no safety numbers, which is a really, really nice just board wipe.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with 3 strength, especially in the MM Flood stuff that just spits out a bunch of things. But unlike Witch's other decks, This one doesn't feel like a very tricky deck. Like you can see what this one does. It won't have a lot of off-house interactions. It will play creatures. It will do its thing, and if you don't have good C, it will just slowly overpower you with big bodies.
Yeah, and if you do have good C, it's probably gonna wither.
Yep.
But
or get a good MTP. Yep.
Or get a good MTP, exactly. Yeah, so like the Axiom of Grist there too, probably gonna do a lot of work here, because you don't really care about killing your logos or your shadows probably.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And then it's got Assignment, which is one of the best removal cards in the game. Except
but
against...
rarely gets to stay alive.
Yeah, getting the Assignment to stay alive is a problem, but unless I have a Book of a Queue, it does a lot of work.
Right, is it one more?
There's one more for which, yep, we've got Panoskull, the Frothing Ballroom Outlaw.
Look, it's Tribute Exile again.
Tribute Exile again with a Crassosaurus and a Six Semper Tyrannus.
Ooh, the double combo, the triple combo.
Well, let's go over all here. Ancient Power.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm just gonna read out this whole Saurian list because it is all everything one deserves here. Got Ancient Power, Axiom of Grist, City State Interest, Double Exile, Six Semper Tyrannosaurus. Yeah. Tribute, Crassosaurus, Orator of Sorrow, Questiara, Raider Gallum, Tribune Pompatus. This, I mean, because Tribune Pompatus with Crassosaurus is exactly what you want when you have Six Emperor as well. And on top of that,
yeah, that's true. He always becomes the strongest easily. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and we've got Neutron Shark, Edai Memory Chip there, Fetch Drones, which is kind of wild. Maybe that'll do work. Maybe it won't.
Pretty good removal as well. Like a couple of decent.
Yeah, this is the only deck that actually has creature control.
Yep.
Like literally the only deck with Quintrino Flux, Red Alert, Neutron Shark, and Axiom. Really, really, really good sources of creature control.
It can remove things in all houses essentially.
Yeah, which is important, especially with a lot of, if there's any disruption available or whatnot. 2 Chief Engineer's Walls here with really nice upgrades.
Yeah, both Force Field Plasma and also Translator Blaster.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying actually if you stack up the walls with the blaster and you stun like 4 creatures with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stunning is really good disruption, especially in the Vortex. So, and like the fact that every upgrade here is in Star Alliance just gives the walls extra value.
But only 13 creatures. I think that if it has any very distinct weakness, it basically doesn't establish a board. It's all combo. It's all removal, pips, and combo.
Yeah, exactly. Which is it's crushing you. It's trying to get rid of your board and have big Emperor swings, and also like the low creature helps the 6 Emperor go off and whatnot. So
it's kind of interesting though. A Logos Saurian Star Alliance deck that is a crush deck in Worlds Collide. Like how often
not what
do
you
see
expect.
That?
Yeah. No, it's not at all what you expect.
So what is our overall view of this lineup? There's 6 Worlds Collide decks, but they're very different Worlds Collide deck. We had some tempo decks, some big board. We had some very tricky, sneaky decks, 2 of them, and then you had this crushy deck.
Yeah, I think it's how many Saurians are in here? Oh, he got rid of the Madam again. I don't know why. I don't like the Madam of Crownway for some reason.
So you have, is it only 4?
4 Saurians, yeah. Which saying they lowered their Saurian shenanigans slightly this season.
Even more combo last season.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is 6 very interesting Worlds Collide decks. Probably this one is the one I think that is the most interesting, the most like.
Yeah.
Like I don't even you'd have to play test this to see if you have any good matchups. Because it's like I don't even know what I need to do besides like maybe not having a board for them to fight into.
Yeah.
But
and then I don't know.
Yeah, and I think
that's how I felt when I played against it. I'm like, what do I do?
I mean, especially. I mean, I feel like your lineup would not like that deck at all.
I mean, Kota Rush probably is fine with it, but that's about it. If you don't like rely on stealing too much, because it has a 2 Odoax that it
Yes.
exhumes back into.
Yep, and Otawak, a lot of Kodarush has a hard time dealing with Otawaks.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think this
Has
is
to be
a
a
super interesting
non-steal
lineup.
rush. Yeah.
It's not gonna a lot of their decks can fight, which is really helpful when you don't have a ton of C. But I think really board
One thing
heavy.
has this deck is a non-stealing crush deck that can go faster than the triple exhume Kirby's Blaster stuff.
Yeah, that would do it. If you have one of those lying around.
We'll see. Now we know what we're on the lookout for when we go on to the next lineup, right?
Yeah, we'll see how Player Hurp does. But overall, I think this is a super interesting lineup. And again, especially when I think creature control is widely considered one of the most important, or one of the in the current Nordic NKFL meta. Creature control is often one of those things people really, really do look for in bringing. So, really interesting choice. 6 very interesting decks. I have a feeling I can very well see Panel Skull being an early ban for a lot of people.
Yeah, the double combo, like if.
I guess
it depends.
Yeah, it does depend, but it's one of those things. I think it's also one of those things where with so many board decks, it's crushy and it's combo.
Yep. No, I think I agree. It's at least you know what this one does, and what it does is crazy. It's like is good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
The other decks are like, I don't know what this deck will do. Some of them, at least.
Some of them, yeah. Okay. So now we're moving on to Player Hurp.
Yep, I see a deck I faced just last week.
Yes, yeah, your round 1 is against Player Hurp, so you have some inside play testing on these decks. We have, first off, and I'll run through all the names, I'll come back. So you have a DT of Sultan Laufer Kent. We have another Dark Tidings of Rowan Cliffoni. An MM of Pixie Collet Che Pulish Lapache. We have a Worlds Collide of Kloss of Farward. An AOA of Clonia Banshee La Renegata. And we have a Coda of Isaac First Big Daddy Azirius. And that is every single set represented with 1 extra DT. I know. Yeah, I know one of Herp's goals was having every set represented in their Hexad. That was the theme they were aiming for and intentionally going for this season. With the inclination towards another Dark Tidings as their 1 extra. So start off with Sultan Laufer Kent, which is a wonderful Dark Tidings deck. One of the highest I've seen, stats-wise, that's actually functional. Packed full of really good cards. Archon's Callback, Phase Shift, Theory Conjecture, 2 Eat-Eyes. I mean, it has an Archivist, but if it can get it in there, wonderful. If it can't, it's probably not a big deal. 27 speed, but double Technobabble, the Elfbert device, which always creates really, really interesting decisions within a game. I think the Elfbert device is a really skill testing card that can really change a game. If you're not used to playing against, Elfbert device, it can be brutal on your decision making of thinking many turns ahead for your plays.
Yeah, it's a card that really rewards strategic thinking. It's like, okay, next turn I might need to stop a key. So what do I play now instead of what is the best to play now?
Exactly.
I think that's very interesting. Freeing up houses for your later turns rather than constantly just playing your hand or so on.
Exactly. And if you have a board, you think about when you need to use the board and when you're gonna get the most value out of it. Very cool card. Very, very intensive. We have Triska, which is great, and we have Encounter Suit for any of the important cards like Edai if we want it, P.I. Sweven, CXO Tabor. Chelonia is probably going to be a great target for it. Something like the old Patty. But in the Untamed, we've got double Equilibrium. There is a Infighting. This deck wishes it had a Keyfrog.
Yep.
I think if this deck had a Keyfrog, it would really put it on.
Then it would be on a different level of efficient, definitely.
Yeah.
With a PE Keyfrog, it would basically always draw into the Keyfrog and just be able to kill it. But
yeah,
it doesn't.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But it does have the double Deepwater Ruins, double Milium. Oh, Patty is such a workhorse in a lot of Dark Tidings decks. And then Thin the Herd, which is pretty interesting creature control most of the time. Especially with so many good play effects and whatnot, you really don't mind shuffling a lot of the stuff back in.
But the obvious big weakness is that it didn't even get a common Mollymawk in the Untamed, so it has 0 artifact control.
0 artifact control and very poor creature control.
Very poor creature control and half poor Ember control.
Yeah.
The speed helps with the Ember control, but the creature control is basically entirely technobabble and infighting.
And fighting with Ameliobes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're not getting very far on the creature control in this deck. So that is certainly a problem.
Has a lot of nice tide effects and 2 tide racers, so it does well. It doesn't have to take chains usually and can force others to take chains occasionally.
Yep, I mean a lot of the tide effects too are sort of when you want them or when you need them, like the Triska or whatnot. So it's always stuff like that is offers a lot of decision points and tide evaluation, which can produce a lot of very different branching decision points within a game.
But I think if we're talking, today's theme seems to be like tricky or not tricky decks, and I don't think it's a particularly tricky deck. It has some smaller secrets like hidden, I'm sure. The Tabor is probably a great encounter to target and can really produce some real results. But largely, you will know what it does.
Yep.
It will remove your combo pieces with punctuate equilibrium, do huge untamed turns, and set them up with really efficient Star Alliance with Locust plays.
Yep, I completely agree. So with that, we will go over with Rowan Cliff Pony, which is another Dark Tidings. Now this is a tricky deck.
This is an extremely tricky deck. Playing against this, the matchup was Helena against this deck, and that was interesting.
That was, yes. I actually watched that. That's actually recorded. We do have the recordings of those.
Yeah.
So this, if you haven't noticed already, has a whirlpool in it, which makes a lot of it just changes games entirely, and the game is played on an entirely new axis. Every decision is different. Like whatever deck you have, which I think is going to be, I mean, if Rowan Cliff Pony gets through, Cliff Pony, there's a lot of Saurian, that can easily turn off at exiling, depending on how it works out. So lots of really interesting stuff there.
And it has the 2 of the best ways to get rid of stuff once it's on the other side and has Ember on it. It has the Maelstrom.
Yeah.
And it has the Numquid the Fair. And Numquid is just such S tier board removal that it's in decks with so few creatures that this one has, at least. In board decks, he's useless. In tricky non-board decks, he's absolutely amazing. Just ignore wards and everything.
Numquid the Fair in board decks is still a spot removal that leaves a body.
Sure, but only if you have he always destroys one.
Yep. Always destroys one. So, I mean, even then, that's pretty unconditional.
That is very good.
Unconditional creature removal, good.
But his strength definitely shines when you look at the fact that wards, you just keep on killing the same until it dies, and then there's nothing that can protect against it. It's just
it doesn't even have the shark condition. There's just until you're satisfied.
Yep, as long as you have few creatures.
Yes, of course. In a deck with 14, presumably the creature control is quite good. First or last is wonderful. Double doorstep the heaven to if you have any worrying about lots of capture effects, like stuff like the 4 capture pits from the 2 Guiltime Netcasters. It's got some interesting distort effects too, and stuff like the Skiphos, which you can I can archive with. Voice of Rakuzel is a rare I had never seen before until your game with Player Hurp.
Oh.
I had never seen it before, but that's a cool card.
Yep.
And I think especially with the triple theory conjectures, and I know obviously people who know Helena, there was a lot of purging going on in that game, so not everything went off, but just a really cool deck.
But the first or last is such a great tool to have in Sanctum. It's one of my favorite cards in Sanctum DT.
Yep.
The fact that if someone is careless, you can just purge a big part of their board. Those 2 Infernuses to just plop down, zoom, both gone.
Yep. No, it really is. It really is. Just I wish it's one of those things where like, man, I wish I had more granularity of like which ones I purge, but then it would just be way too good.
Yeah, that would be way too good. And good decks with it can have quite a lot of control with it. A Numquid
Exactly.
that can remove only the biggest creatures, for
Yep.
example,
Mhm.
and then purge when certain things is.
Yeah, and
Voice of Recruiter with Tide Warp is weird.
yeah, and
Says.
there's also double Hydro Cataloger with a Tide Warp.
Yeah, and those are the sort of cards where I go, who is it good for? Like again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this deck has lots of archiving with the triple theory conjectures too. So
Exactly.
I think this is something that's going to get a lot of value, and especially with stuff like even something like the abandoned ship with the whirlpool, right? Like,
yeah, also excellent card. It's a really cool deck.
right? I mean, like you're bouncing stuff like the Photic Raider or whatnot. Like, this is a cool Dark Tidings.
All right, next.
And so here we have Pixie, which is a MM, which its arc stats are looking solid. The rating here at 20 Amber control, 13 creature control. It is an M4 Captura with, oh my god, how many bonus pips is this? There's 13 Amber pips, 17, 19, 28, 30 pips in this deck, all told.
13, 15, no, 28, right? Because those 2 extra Ember pips are already counted in the 13 down there.
Oh, you're right.
28 pips of some sort with the Amphora.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's crazy online. 21 creatures with that many pips. That all of the creatures do extra stuff that isn't just being a body.
Yep.
But also has 0 artifact control.
Yes, it does have 0 artifact control, which I mean is it's a concern, but not necessarily one of the biggest problems. Especially if this deck is sort of asking for a lot of asking for answers.
Definitely, and you have to be able to answer that board, like double Octavia, double Centurion, double Faust with Ludo, and 2 Shrix. It's like that Soria. Oh, I love it, and it's so annoying. Like there's so many big bodies there with a little bit of armor and high strength, and they will all be capturing. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's got double tempting offer as well. Finishing blow, a sack of coins is so good. Sack of coins is one of the best.
Yeah, it's a really, really good card.
Like the floor. Like the floor
the fact that it has. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, so the ceiling of sack of coins for creature removal is absolutely insane. And then finishing blow as well. Super great combo. Pincerator, lots and lots of things. 9 damage pips plus like Pincerator, Seeker Needle, so many things that just go so well with finishing blow.
But the thing that really took this deck like up 1 notch for me was that it has 3 bounces. That is so valuable in MM decks.
Yeah.
Double Doom and 2 tempting offers, because it just ruins so many game plans that they can bounce past, like past taunting, and doesn't matter, care about strength, and puts it back into hand. And a deck like with no speed like this one has, being able to slow your opponent down a little bit by tossing something back is actually quite important.
Yeah, and I mean Double Doom is an absolutely crazy card.
Yeah, the Inspector is of course always annoying as well.
Yeah, like Double Doom is just such high value, especially into someone like Witch's lineup with lots of Saurians.
Yep, and if you can hit one of those combo cards, then it's
yep, absolutely. And then the M4 Captura with 20 creatures is just, it's gonna go far. It's gonna provide a lot of tempo.
But the only Ember Dump it has is the Ludo, correct?
Yeah, has the one Ludo. Yeah, and go ahead.
Is the Primus the one that moves over 1 Ember?
Yes, Primus. Yeah, Primus Unguis is not Primus.
Tiny. No. The Consort Primus.
Is that the one that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it can produce some very slow shifting of Amber.
Yeah, very slow shifting of Amber, but it's definitely a deck that doesn't want to have its board removed again and again with 0 speed.
Yeah.
Like if you have to start taking those turns where you just play 2 creatures, even with an Amphora and a lot of pips, playing 2 or 3 creatures just to see them die immediately, that's not what you want to go against. Like a Crushy deck against this is probably not a great matchup.
Yep. And good shout on the Pinsirator Brabble there as well. Could be really nasty. Pandemonium
Yeah.
as well, with this many damage pips and like sack of coins and whatnot. Like you are going to be able to set up your Pandemonium to get a lot of one-sided capturing. Is really good. I don't know. We'll check the enhancements here. Yeah, it's got a damage pip. Ooh, and a double damage pip. And a double damage pip on the Implosion too.
Yeah, Ludo works if it's alive, but against a Crushy deck, there won't be a Ludo alive. Like that will be target number 1. But
yeah,
I agree.
especially
If
with this
Ludo is alive, you have a lot of control.
And there's not much. What is the creature control? The creature protection. It's Cinder and Shadowsmith. So like that Ludo is gonna be probably. No, you're gonna have to get through the Cinder, but I think there's gonna be some.
There's no other taunts so you can't really put up a board that will protect the Ludo in itself.
Yeah, it's gonna get targeted, especially with an M4 capture route. It's the risk of just big amber dumps with the capturing is high.
Yeah, and with no archiving, it can't really decide not to play the Ludo when it draws it. Like
yeah,
if you have the Ludo in hand, you sort of have to play it. Will you sit there with a Ludo just for that turn? Decks with 0 speed can't really play like that.
Yeah.
Welcome 2 new viewers. Nice. We're up in 12.
We are up at 12.
We are currently covering the silver matchup between Witch and Player Hurp. And we're about to finish our initial deep look of the decks. So let's move on from Pixie, a very pip-heavy MM deck.
The players have really given us all to talk about by picking interesting decks.
Yes.
So here is a Worlds Collide, which has a wonderful Star Alliance in that it has 2 Leyland lands, which is one of my favorite cards in Keyforge.
And 2 Kirby's, so you can dig for whatever card you need and then play it.
Yep, which is beautiful.
And only 16 creatures, and it is Hysteria, so you can toss your Kirby's back, play new stuff.
Yeah, and some high impact stuff. You got like the Binding Iron, 6 Emperor, Tributes, Library of Apollosaurus. Like there's 3 artifacts in here. There's
playing against this deck, it felt like I was chained all the time because of those stupid Binding Irons.
Yeah, I can imagine. This is probably It seems like a deck that might go faster than the 11 speed.
Yeah, if it because of the Kirby's consistency and the lay of the land from if the Kirby's are allowed to stay at all, you can keep playing the Starlines for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the 6 Emperor Tribute, of course, a nice combo. Eater of the Dead, annoying card.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it has a this is fairly the creature control kind of Worlds Collide, classic Worlds Collide, where the creature control is a Harbinger of Doom. The only board wipe is Harbinger of Doom with Axiom, and just not necessarily good ways to deal with it.
A Soul Fiddle, that's board control, right?
That's something. Can take out a daughter, I guess.
No, no, it can't.
I mean, it can stop it from reaping.
Yeah.
It's something. Galactic Census, though. I mean, it has Galactic Census isn't probably going to get a ton of value in this deck just because we expect this and Star Alliance to have pretty good representation in top decks.
Yeah. That is good.
So, is it going to get the most value? Probably not. But I would expect it to get probably some. I mean, even if it gets you 2 Amber, that's pretty good. It's still a pip.
And as we have seen in some of Witch's decks, Primus Unguis can actually be a problem. There are still decks that don't have a way to hard remove something with 20 strength.
No.
They definitely exist. So a Primus Unguis with a lot of Ember on it, just using the 6 Emperor whenever someone has fought it down enough, could be a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, Witch had a lot of creature control that was simply either an Axiom or it was ping damage.
Yep.
So, the Unguis may live forever.
Do we see the specter of a banning strategy here, maybe. Like remove the things that you kill.
We just might. And then we
Right, do we have one more?
We have
Yep.
2 more. We have Clonia,
Oh, yes.
the AoE, and then we have a Coda.
All right.
So we have a Brobnar Mars Sanctum AoE. This is a Martian Generosity. This is going to be, it is a potential Martian Generosity loop with the Mars First and the Gluxal Perforator. It has Hypnotic Command, which is 2 of the best Mars rares in there.
Yeah, and has a lot of creatures as well. Like Hypnotic Command in some AoE Mars is pretty bad because they have like 2 or 3 creatures or something like that.
Yeah.
But with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures, it's a lot better.
Yep. And for those who don't know, Hypnotic Command is for each friendly Mars creature, choose an enemy creature to capture 1 amber from their own side. Brutal. And this is going to, especially like, the Martian Generosity can get them all out. They don't have to be ready like some Mars cards.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah, there's an uncommon one that requires them to be ready. Which is similar. The stealing one, right?
Can't remember it off the top of my head. However, there is one that's very similar to that. And also, there's also stuff like Mothership Support, which requires to deal damage, requires ready Mars creatures.
Yeah. But for me, the shining point of this deck is just its sheer board power, together with things like Relentless Assault on Collector Worms, on Lollops. It has the Gang of Chieftain, Gauntlet of Command. It just has so much fighting. 2 smites, Grey Rider. Everything is just enormously big and has dangerous fight effects.
I can see. Yeah, I can see this deck if depending on how the game shakes out, I can see it getting to a position if like the Collector Worms are to live, you've got like 7 of your opponent's creatures in your archives, and you're just like not even bothering looping the Generosity.
Yeah.
Or if you are, you're doing it when the game's closed.
And so, if you don't have good answers to this board, it's too big, just too thick.
and it has a war chest to combo with all that Brobnar and fighting.
Yep.
So really, really cool AoE deck, and this is gonna look really nasty.
And a very good way of like the SAS does not tell the story of this deck at all.
Not at all.
But in a story very common now for Player Hurp's lineup, 0R.
0R? A player after my own heart. Next we have Isaac First Big Daddy Xerius, which I believe is classic Coda, by the way.
Yep.
This is classic Coda and was one of their decks that was they thought for them was top tier, but really got hurt by the bait and switch nerf, by bait and switch errata.
Mm-hmm.
Really changed the text.
20 pips.
20 pips, 2 key cheats in the key charge Shota Hazri. It has Fertility Chant, Hunting Witch, Regrowth, and this thing is it's doing a lot of pipping. It has 32 expected amber and key cheats, and it's just going to be doing that.
Yep, and as usual with these Coda decks, if it draws stuff in the right order, it will feel like the most unstoppable, unfair deck ever.
Yep.
And if it draws stuff in the wrong order, it will feel like a mediocre deck with just a lot of pips that you steal or take back or they lose in some way.
Yep, pretty much. It does have a Rock Crawling Giant though to make some. I mean, I don't even know why you discard anything here because they're all just pips. But
yep.
I guess maybe to get your blood money value. But yeah, this is pretty crazy for a Coda deck. And you know what? This might be the one deck. I mean, it has lots of steel though, so maybe not against that Fighting Worlds Collide deck.
Yeah, I also thought it's like, but wait, it's only Ember Control is in the steel.
Yeah. So
maybe
not.
The Life Web will be okay, I suppose. And the Fertility Chant is pretty safe because that deck did not have Infernus. And I also thought that this could be actually a deck that does well into it. Now I need to open my my door here too because it's very, very warm. I need to find my cell phone. So you can decide a little bit what you think about the matchup between these two lineups while I go and fix these things.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is quite the lineup. We have, if anyone in chat has thoughts as well, but we have Player Hurp here. Neither player is real. I mean, Player Hurp is much more indexed on creature control, which I think is fairly reasonable, especially in a lot of the current NKFL meta. Witch's decks are hard to make out, and I think
Something good about them is that they, like Player Hurp's decks are generally low creature amount. So one of the
yes,
big weaknesses of Witch's decks might not necessarily be that much of a weakness, and then you've saved up some precious card space in your deck for other tricks instead. Like there's
exactly, yeah,
basically the AOA and the MM deck
yep,
that
pretty
have
much.
really problematic board that require answering.
And the AOA here is also going to be probably pretty decent at dealing with Witch's board.
Yes,
So
definitely like it.
I'm seeing some problematic things on both sides for both players.
It will be very interesting banning phase. Like the banning phase can really take these two lineups in like completely different directions depending on what you ban away. Like do you ban the rush decks on Player Herb side and then try to deal with the big boards and try to save that? Or do you
Yep.
go the other way around and ban the board strategy? But
Yep.
also, what do you ban on Witch's side? Do you ban the ones that have board control and hope to get your MM? Like it's one of these things that can really shift depending on the initial thinking on the banning.
Yeah. And then but they're tricky decks. I mean, this is especially like even something like Kloss here. Kloss has a real chance, especially with the Binding Irons, to really hurt the ability of like the Hysteria and Binding Irons to really disrupt the game plan of some of these decks where, it's going to take multiple turns to try and rebuild what it had achieved. So lots of really tricky stuff going on here. But probably in the interest
Do
of
you want to give a very brief prediction? I was crappy at my last one, so
that's true. I mean, I think both of us were wrong. I was technically right.
yes, you had the right winner at least in one of them.
I did have the right winner. That was one of those things. That was one of those matchups though, where like genuinely there was a very easy way. I figured if Gorlami won, it was just going to be like I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, I was not expecting it to be 3-0. I figured what a not nice deck would get a matchup, and the deck wouldn't high roll, and it'd be a good win.
Yep.
But with those decks, with Gorlami's decks, if they high roll, they're probably going to be pretty hard to answer, and if they do anything less, Not has a good matchup, can probably take a couple games.
How did the match in gold go?
Between Pirate,
it has not been reported yet.
That was Pirate and
yeah, it's not in the document. Does anyone in chat know if it's been played?
I don't think Cavell and Pirate have played.
We don't know yet.
We don't know. Actually, well, Anxious Pirate should be streaming their game. They're probably going to be streaming their game when they do. So we might be able to have live feedback on that one.
All right. Well, then we don't know how our predictions did for that.
No.
In the Player Herp versus Witch matchup, I will have to root for my old friend and say that he will take it in very, very close 2-1 games.
Yeah, I mean, this is hard. This is hard. I think I gotta go for Player Herp. I think it's gonna be 2-1 Player Herp. I think they're gonna be close games.
So we both agree they'll be close and they will come down to the wire.
Yeah, I think depending on how the bands go, it could be depending on how the bands go, it's gonna be important. But yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on to bronze and stick in with Sith and of Angmar, which is bronze gamma. Yep, we've got yrstruly versus SithofAngmar. They are both in the top. They are both in the top 3. yrstruly finishing off week 1 with a 3-0 over JK007, and Sith finishing with a 2-1 versus St. Felton.
Indeed, and these are lineups that I've never looked at. think now we are players that I have not played, and I have not looked at the lineups. You had played one of them. Was
Yep.
that so?
I have played yours truly. I played them season 18 or season 9. I think season 18. That was probably one of my worst seasons ever, to be honest. So that was I think I won that one too. I won against yours truly 2-1. He ended up winning the division, and then I got stomped every other game.
Oh,
So it was an interesting season.
are we looking at yours truly's decks first?
This is yours truly, yeah.
All right, take it away,
So,
Murph man.
yep, we'll run it through. We've got Redguard, the Skeptic of the Fence, which is a Coda. We have Mr. Big, Quan, Battlefield Mason, which is another Coda. We have the Senior of Eastville, another Coda. And then we have Light Veins of Spymaster's Hideout, which is an MM. The Paranoid Composer of Freeburg being MM as well. And finishing off with a nice 3-3 split in set breakdown of another MM here, Dragon Tamer, G, Castabearer. So we'll start off here with Redguard, which is a Brobnar Shadows Untamed. And this looks very steely, rushy, Coda to me, with lots of very crushy Coda deck here.
I was just going to say it looks very, very crushy.
Yeah, this is like textbook crush.
It can bring the Piranha Monkeys with the regrowth if you need extra damage based. Wipes it, gets rid of all the small things with the Earthshaker.
Yeah,
And
it's got a
has
Coward's
all
End.
the removal. Yeah, it just tries to remove everything every turn.
It has double Nerve Blast, triple Relentless Whispers, double Secret Needle, not speed silver, special delivery. Like that is so much, just like steal, tempo, and like just creature control in shadows. Crazy. And then this Untamed, obviously, if it gets going, I am certain can be pretty annoying to deal with.
Yeah, I see. Play Hunting Witch, play Dust Pixie, play Piranha Monkeys, kill both. Regrowth, Hunting Witch, regrowth, Dust Pixie, Chota.
Yep.
But it doesn't have any speed, so it will never draw those cards if I was playing it. But I'm sure
No.
someone will have that turn one.
And some nice tempo too in the triple Bumsies.
Yeah, the Bumsy is a really nice card. It like pops down a big body and just has a very rare, like, good Ember control effect in Brobnar.
Yep, and you got War Drummer in there too, which is going to combo off nicely with the Earthshakers, the bumps. Like you can make them lose 6 Amber in a turn with the Bumpsies, and then on top of that, burn the stockpile.
But one of the things with this deck is that it doesn't really have anything that is threatening on the board except Witch of the Eye. So it will not really demand any answers from you, and it doesn't have a good scaling swing back, though it's very dependent on getting the key sheets against decks with scaling Ember control.
Yes, absolutely. It has burn the stockpile, which is, it's not as...
Yeah, but it's not a swing back. Like, you can't do something about the fact that the other person just went up a lot in Ember.
Exactly. And then loot the bodies in Coward's End and Earthshaker. Really, really good combo.
Yep.
But
0 speed. So, like, it's one of those decks that, once again, but this one is slightly better than the pure brush decks because of cannot lose the control of the board as easily. It doesn't, like, runaway board doesn't happen as often against it. So it might have time to just remove a little bit, hand shape, remove a little bit more, hand shape, and actually get to those big turns. It won't have to desperately fight for the board.
Yeah.
Which is why Coda Crush decks are so feared.
Yes.
Yep, solid Coda.
Is there...
Everyone knows
there's one creature in Shadows in Umbra.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Coda things. So next we've got Mr. Big Quam Battlefield Mason, which is Brobnar Disc Shadows. Loving the Brobnar representation.
24 creature control, 29.
Yep, this is another Crush deck.
Another Coda Crush deck.
Yeah, classic.
This time with 3 Dust Imps.
Gateway to Disc, Key to Disc. Now, Gateway to Disc, I think, has gone a lot down in value, just because the chains.
0 speed decks, yeah. In a 0 speed deck, it's so painful to have 3 less cards.
But
This deck, yeah,
it has Loot the Bodies and Kitadis, which is going to be beautiful.
that is beautiful, and it has a TMTP, which is
Yep.
what the one before lacked. But this deck does not have a lot of small ways to get Summon of Check.
Yes, it
It
does
has like one
not.
Bubsy, 2 Relentless Whispers, Miasma,
Yep.
Magda, I guess. Yeah,
It has a War Drummer, so you can do some stuff with that, but
one Bubsy.
one Bumpsy, yeah. But it has this Collar Subordination, which can be brutal, especially
Yep.
into a lot of MM decks with lots of high value static effect creatures.
Unfortunately, no archiving of its own, so it's Ultra Graviton Steel.
Yes, it is. It is looking to draw these cards in the right order.
Yep, no archiving, no speed.
But
Just draw the right cards.
we have some artifact control in this neck lifter.
That we do.
Yeah. So we can move
Alright.
on to the Senior of Eastville,
Senor of Eastville.
which is a coda with Dis Logo Sanctum, and this has Help from Future Self and double Random Access Archives,
Random Access Archives.
which is fascinating. It's a fascinating set of rares there.
And Brain Eaters drawing possibly cards as well.
Possibly. And then we've got a nice Sanctum here in the Doorstep to Heaven, Inspiration, Blinding Light, really good.
Yeah, Blinding Light, it's surprisingly annoying. Take Hostages is okay. Terms of Redress, pretty okay. Hard R.
Well, with 14 creatures and none of them are very big, I sort of doubt that Take Hostages is going to get a ton of...
Take Hostages will not be big, no.
Yeah.
But it does have the Sergeant Sakiel that fights with something else, right?
Yep, that is the play fight with a neighbor. And it has a fair game, which is usually a not so fair. But we have Poltergeist.
Yeah,
Which
more
is
hard
great.
R. It's solid.
Yep, we've got the Gormavom and Poltergeist and Snudge if you want to do it, but it's got the Schuler to pair with the Snudge as well for some combos. Or a Charette if somehow your
It
Charette
didn't
doesn't
catch
have...
it the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow. And then Tendrils of Pain, which is a card... This has 5.8 speed, so it has efficiency to get there. Tendrils of Pain is a card I have never had success with. My opponents always get maximum value out of.
Yep, that's it's actually coded that way, so
Yeah.
that it always they always draw it on the right turn.
Exactly. That is actually they slip Cryogen some extra money.
I actually played with a person who believed that there was something as for real like unfair shuffling in TCO. That somehow TCO managed to sort the cards for his opponents, but not for him.
Right. Yeah.
I try to just think of how much more complicated it would be to create a cheating shuffler.
Well, the Fisher isn't good enough for him.
Yeah. All right.
So we've got Light Veins of the Spymaster's Hideout, which is a first of 3 MM decks here. This has 24 speed. Yeah, that's right. 24 speed, which is all coming. I think it's like entirely coming from pretty much all from the logos, right?
Chronos Anthology or Kirby, but other than the Kirby, it's I don't know what I think about those kind of like speed setups. When is it good?
I mean, presumably you're gonna thin your logos real fast, right? If you're just like blasting out Eclectic Inquiries and then Lothologica into like Daughter, Cronus.
I suppose, and since they have draw pips, I assume that the draw pips are at least one of them are in logos.
Two are in logos.
Okay.
One of them's on a Kazap though, which you may or may not want to play.
Yeah, none of them are in the repeatable loop because otherwise it would have been really, really good.
Yeah.
If you could reshuffle your deck at the end of a loop, and then it's only if you have the Infomorph and it's not on the board that you can do a rule of 6 loop with the Lethologicus, for example.
Yeah. Theoretically.
Yeah, but it can't unless the Infomorph is perfectly located.
It has a one last job, which you're probably not looking to hit your red penny off of, but that's some good late game steal. If you really need a little bit extra, you can get your Bonithing, your Demo Thief. You can I don't see why you have that, but Yeah, it's purge,
I,
so like
uh,
you're probably
you
not looking to
want
get a ton
most
of
of your
value off one
thieves,
last job.
yeah, exactly. You want most of your thieves to stay on the board, or at least
Yeah,
be back in.
yeah.
Uh,
But it's actually got some pretty decent creature control. Maybe not into flood with the Krzap being pretty ineffective most of the time. But
yeah. But on the other
overall,
hand,
okay.
does it really build a board? Does this ever want to reap?
Um, doesn't really feel like it. Let's
No,
see.
it doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't feel like it. No.
No.
It's got static
16
effects.
for speed. Yeah, it will play stuff. It will play creatures that allow you to draw more cards that just have to be out there. But
Yeah.
it has almost no interactions with reaping or actually doing things on the board.
Yeah, I agree.
It
So
has a
probably,
little bit of star lines, but the star lines, other than that, is a bit meh. So
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's sort of things where it's like you're not really incentivized to go in there very often.
yeah, most likely it would just disappear in Lethologicus. Yep.
Probably, yes. And here we have the Paranoid Composer of Freeburg, which
A
I
dev.
believe this is a deck I'm fairly certain was in their lineup when I played them.
Yep.
And this is a Dark Amber Vault, Disc logo Saurian with the Dark Amber Vault being in the Saurian, with 9 mutants. It's speedy again with a double Eclectic Inquiry, Lethologica, Cyberclone, which is one of the best removable cards in the game.
Cyberclone is horrifying. I hate decks with Cyberclone.
It has Infernus, and it also has Tertiate, which is some pretty flexible creature control in Saurian.
Even better if you can ward stuff, but it's definitely solid.
Yeah, totally solid. And then it's got Implosion, Mark of Disc, Pain Reaction. This is a deck, I'm almost certain that they had this deck there, where I think it sort of, if it gets its mutants, which are in Logos for the most part, if it sort of gets those in order, it can do a lot. But the Dav is sort of just not really there. Most of the time you're not chaining multiple draws together.
So what is its Ember control? Can you hover over Ember just for a sec?
Yes, I can.
Inferno. Oh, here. This is one of my biggest gripes with this game is that the Ludo somehow rates as 1.58 Ember control just by existing. Sure, it has like Spoils of Battle and Cost of Primus and so on, but is Ludo really worth 1.6 Ember control?
Well, it's also confusing. I mean, Ludo is 1.6. Spoils of Battle, which is a guaranteed 2 Amber capture, is rated at 0.62.
Yes.
Odd.
Ludo does not control Ember from the opponent. Like playing Ludo does not control a single Ember.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely not. And yeah. Yes. But it does have the double QMX in there. Not a lot of good ways to kill the QMX. They're pretty good tertiate targets and whatnot, but overall, I don't think you're.
Biometric shots, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good stuff Coda or a good stuff MM that can do stuff, but it doesn't have any like these big swingy stuff, which is very typical of MM. Unlike Worlds
Yeah.
Collide and so on, they don't have the big plays, as you say.
Yeah, I just sort of would lump this in a category of this is an MM value deck where it has, as you said, high card quality all around, and they're probably going to do more pound for you per card than you're doing.
Yeah, and removal in every house in some way, which is a very valuable trait.
Yeah.
No R again.
No R. Yes, and also I
But
think this is one of the things where it has a flashy card in the Dark Amber Vault, but I don't think the Dark Amber Vault really is going to be that impactful. So
yeah, because it doesn't really draw into some things that just escalate. It's no fandangles. It's nothing that will take over the match if it's on the board.
exactly, yeah.
All right, last one.
Last but certainly not least, we've got Dragon Tamer G, Cast Bearer, which is a Disc, Logos Shadows, which is, fairly similar to the last one. 11 speed here, 19 creatures, Double Doom, which is great. Grim Reminder, I love Grim Reminder in any deck.
I think that this deck looks more interesting because
I
of
agree.
the Ultra Graviton, because of Infernuses with a Mark of this,
Stirring
and the Grim
Grave.
Reminder, where it has a lot more things that don't just play straightforward out of hand. It has.
Yeah, and you've got stuff like the one last job here is also a lot more live. You're probably fine to get rid of the Francis, the Gamgee, the Sacro Thief.
And if you can get rid of those in this deck, you suddenly have two houses that are much better than the two houses would be in the other deck.
Exactly.
Like here, getting rid of that shadows could be a potential game plan for real, because you have the EP and logos.
Yep.
And you have the Infernus in this. Like Infernus purging your own shadows actions is for real a play that I would consider in this deck, to only have logos and this left. One last job with leaves and purge the others.
Exactly. You get some amber control, you get some deck thinning, and you're operating on two house deck with an Ultra Gravitron stashing away your everything else.
But this is a deck that can get boarded.
Absolutely. Very low creature control. Ultra Gravitron is accounting for 1.85 of it.
Yeah, I just looked at like actual hard removal. It's all damage based except for Ultra Graviton.
Yeah, and Double Doom, I suppose.
Tempting Offer Double Doom is good, but for a wide board, what does it do against a wide board?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It plays an Ultra Graviton that would be fought down and killed by a wide board immediately.
Yeah. So definitely gonna be a weakness there.
I think the mark of this would be absolute key if this deck should win any board matchups. Like, you have to time your burst or whatever you do with the mark of this, because without that, you would just lose to a lot of creatures. It only has, it has no way to remove anything with armor. Like, put out three Sanctum creatures with armor. One of these things remove a single one of them, except the bounce.
And that's something we'll have to look out for in SithofAngmar once we get there.
Yep.
So I'll move over there now. We have, again, this is SithofAngmar's lineup. We have Emesis, the Claws of Rituals, which is a Worlds Collide. Alloy, the Moderator of Friendship, which is an MM. Failstep, the Author of Innocence, another Worlds Collide. Rosalia, Autarch of the Volatile Quarry. Thank you for the follow. That doesn't look like it came off, but welcome in. Thank you. It didn't tell me what the activity was. So I don't know. But welcome in. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for either following, subscribing, whatever.
Something.
I don't know. I don't know why it's not showing up in the activity log, but thank you. You are appreciated.
Should you change the top there?
Oh yes, I should. I should change the label.
Do that while I close the door here.
Thank you. So this is yours true. Oh, that's a caps lock. There we go.
Right, can you take them from the start, because I missed it. I got distracted. Just to read the name of the set.
We had Zaramis not paying attention, so we'll have to we'll have to got the other one in there. Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know what that was, so my apologies, because it's not
exactly that happened at the same time. So I got confused by that, and the label had to be changed, and someone did something nice. So
yeah, it's all your fault, chat.
So we will give SithofAngmar's lineup do over from the first deck.
Sounds good. And now it has we've got the proper title. So we have
there we go.
Emesis, the Claws of Rituals, which is an MM. Sorry, it's a Worlds Collide deck.
Oh, yeah.
We have Alloy, the Moderator of Friendship, which is an MM. Worlds Collide, Failstep, Author of Innocence. Rosalia, MM deck. We have Kelly, Farmance Webkeeper, which is another MM. And we've got Bizator of the Moneylender's Canyon, which is a third Worlds Collide deck here.
So a 3-3 split.
Yeah. which is the opposite of what we had seen with yours truly, which is a 3/3 Corda MM.
So half opposite, half same.
Exactly. So we've got starting off here with M-Assist, which is a Worlds Collide Logo Saurian Untamed. We've got Chaos Portal, always fun. I think the main stars here are going to be, looks like the Saurian Untamed, and then you've got stuff like the E-Die and Memory Chip.
I think the Saurian will be the big star. I was looking for the Ghost Hawk in Untamed, which would have been huge for the 2 regrowths, but
yeah, it does have Feathered Shaman.
Yes, Feathered Shaman is cool, but I think that the Saurian is the star of this deck.
Yeah,
with the Philosophaurus, Spartanosaur, Double Golden Spiral, Imperium, Scutum. It can exalt away Orator Hisaro. Yeah, this Philosophosaurus is so online.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't know if Dinobot's still in chat, but it has the Spartosaur is such an incredible card. Such an incredible card. And it's going to be brutal, and it's brutal in so many matchups. Especially against yours truly, which wasn't very Saurian heavy.
Yep,
so not a lot of dinos going on there.
That is very true. But on the other hand, this one against those Crushy Coda decks with a 3.9 Amber Control.
So maybe not looking so hot, but it does have the Puncture Equilibrium to mess up because they don't have any speed. The Coda Rush.
That is true.
So really mess up the handcrafting.
It could also be a bit of a toss-up because sometimes those Coda decks just have crap. And then you do a PE and suddenly they just draw into the hand they needed. It feels like I've done that several times.
Yeah, no, that is very true. It has it has one Cutthroat Research to deal with it. That's true. You can use the Mustic Murmut to trigger the Spartosaur. That's nice. And you have the Pempaka Yaga to make it give it skirmish.
Yep.
To give everything skirmish. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it gives the whole battle line.
Yeah, so you can your
the mini group think tanks will probably be a bit self-destructive. Sometimes.
Probably. Yeah. Welcome in, Astron. Right. Yeah, you did get here late. How dare you?
Yep.
Gotta be paying attention to the stream
when are you playing your match? We were going to see if we were right or not, and how did it go? So tell us in chat while we look at Alloy, the
moderator of friendship. Reasonable. There is no reasonable excuse for being late to the stream.
Apart from playing your game.
Unless you were neither streaming or playing your game, as far as I could see.
Hey, we have a double matter maker. How many upgrades? We have 4 upgrades.
4 upgrades.
Countersuit is cool to play in other houses, but most of them are unfortunately in Starlines. But still,
Sleep does not count, Astron. And we have double Novo Dynamo. Man, double Novo Dynamo can really, if you get a key from 4.
That would be beautiful. You just have to somehow never play your logos and keep drawing things.
If you have, if you have double Novo Dynamo, I think it's totally reasonable to just, especially with an auto encoder down, like you are totally reasonable for you to just like constantly discard your logos and use the rest sphere.
Absolutely. That is the ideal, is to never play the logos, because this logos, unlike the one we were looking at earlier,
sucks.
In the other lineup, this logos is terrible. Except the BDQ.
Yeah, it's got BDQ. Might Never Matter. I think Might Never Matter can do a lot of really interesting things.
It just, the 2 munchlings that competes with the Novo Dynamo, you don't want those out. The Quixo that.
Yeah, you don't really care about anything here.
Yeah,
you care about the auto encoder.
So what does do stuff in this lineup? You have the Red Penny. You have
double subject Kirby.
Yeah, double subject Kirby. I think that this deck, it won't really take over. So I think it needs to keep a lot of tempo to keep things going, and probably plop down an encounter suit on Kirby and try to just play out of Starlands.
Well,
while the logo is discarded in Novo.
Exactly. If you can get the Novo out with the Kirby, I think you're
yeah, exactly. And then you play like the Red Pennies, the Shoulder IDs, and so on with Kirby as well.
Yeah, you can get the look over theirs,
and so occasionally when you have a big hand of shadows, you play it. But otherwise, you just basically want to be in Starlines while throwing stuff to the Novo Dynamo. That's
I
my
wonder.
that's my.
I wonder if you do stuff like purging the Gamgee and the Shoulder-ids, but you probably want the Shoulder-ids to with the one last job. A lot of one last jobs in this matchup.
Definitely, it will be many last jobs. Not one.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I see. Cavell went away for Easter, so they had to postpone their games.
Oh, I
That
see.
is fair. Well, that
Okay,
means
so
we can actually see the game in a stream, though.
the Ember control here is also quite terrible. It seems to be a theme so far.
Well, none of it's
It's
in
all
Logos, so that's nice because you're never going in there. Never
that
going
is
into
true. That is
Logos.
true.
But yeah, I think overall this really needs tempo, and unfortunately, it doesn't have a great tempo tools to keep it in the look over there's and just in the amber
Yeah,
controls in the amber control sense.
true.
But
It doesn't really have swing back in any significant amount.
yeah,
And if someone does not play creature, for example, against like more crushy deck, the look over there is also have to be used on your own Novos, which works, but
yeah, you're losing some
right.
value.
Also,
So next we can move on to fail step, which is a second of
failed.
the
Double neutron shark. I saw
double
it
neutron
immediately.
shark. Is there? Yeah, double neutron shark. Go to the many, which is interesting. Forging an alliance, which actually can do a lot of work. This is actually just probably usually pretty decent.
Yeah,
Key cheat.
it's a, like sometimes it's worth just paying like 9 or 10, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean having a guaranteed key is probably worth 3 amber.
Yep, double Kirby, and you have a lot of actions in the others. Like you have 7 playable cards in Logos, and you have 8 playable cards in. Sorry, no, 6 in Logos, I guess. No, you can play the Quantum Finger Trap as well.
Yeah,
So the Kirby is extremely online in this deck.
yeah, and they just combine later. So like
Oh, right. That's even
so like I
8.
mean
Yeah,
this amount like this
9
disparate.
and 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. Okay, so the Kirby is extremely valuable, and the Info Officer. So would a play here be to actually try to archive away your Logos?
probably trying to archive away the Locust creatures because get the sharks in there, and
Yeah,
then
play the Discombobulator on something sticky, archive away the Logos that will like clog up the deck,
yep.
and then Neutron Shark away every other turn until you Data Forge and then play this huge Logos turn. That seems like a good.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. And you can
But
also have
also lacking in the
some nice
control.
plays like with Cutthroat and Neutron Shark if you're looking to and if some nice neutron targets and something like Titan Guardian and Quantum Finger Trap.
Yeah, those are very nice. But with the low Ember control, we really have a theme in these 3 last decks. We'll see if it continues in the lineup. 16 pips. They're all tempo decks. These require you to have like clean tactical tempo plays where you really utilize what you have on hand really well,
Yep.
because they don't have good swing back. They don't have these oh shit effects where you can just save a game with some like big combo. The exile here doesn't have the tribute. So these are all reliant on this high speed, high efficiency, keeping up the tempo, making sure that the opponent tries to answer you, and then removing stuff with the neutron shark, just getting rid of their threats while continuing the tempo.
I will say though that the Star Alliance here could very much present a runaway board state if it's allowed to live. With something like the Helms and Spears, Kirby's, like you can really cycle through this deck.
Yep. Yeah, the Spears is great.
And so then we've got Roselia, which is a Saurian Star Alliance deck with some chase cards in here. We have 4 sins. We've got Desire,
5.
Envy, Sloth, and Wrath.
No, it was the Dino Fiend that threw me off. Yeah, 4 sins.
And then we have the Z Force Agent with this Z Particle Tractor, Z Wave Blaster, and Z Wave Emitter, with also double Observing Max, which is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, I like the Observer Max, especially when you have an Ancient Power in the Saurian as well.
Yeah, that is nice.
Hybris with Citizen Strix is also excellent. I actually like this deck. It's slow.
I think a really important part of this deck is really going to be Grim Reminder. I think in order for this, I think this deck probably to really take over a game or really close out a game is probably going to want a Grim Reminder back. It's Dis or it's Saurian. Lots of good play effects there. Then of course the Star Alliance also. I mean, there's lots of good reminder targets. The Star Alliance, Saurian, and Dis can all do a lot of work.
And what I like about this deck is that it has a lot of like the cards that are required to be removed or they threaten to in some way take over. It doesn't have the most dangerous of the sins combo. It
No, it
doesn't
doesn't.
have the envy
Gluttony.
and gluttony, is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
Envy and Gluttony are the brutal. Envy, Gluttony, and then Desire are all
yeah,
quite strong. But the good reminder there is going to make, like Sloth can be really annoying. If
yeah,
this
on the
deck had
grim
a
reminder
Greed,
card, if you play out like a big disboard and don't use any cards, that can be huge. We have 14 people watching. That's amazing. That's the biggest number we've had on these matchup watches.
hell yeah,
Okay,
I think
get it
we've
started.
they're popular.
Yep.
And we've got Senator Quintina, which is probably a discard a lot of the time, but the Implosion as well, and the Waking Nightmare, or sorry, the Stirring Grave to sort of have some more targeted archiving. And some good tempo. Again, I think this is another tempo deck here with like stuff like the Anthony's.
Yeah, no big ember dumps. It just needs to keep it up.
Yeah, I agree, Astron. I think Sins are they're not as scary as they certainly can be made out to be, but they are also very scary if they are allowed to take over a game.
And Pride, which is not in this deck, but Pride can really do some nasty things.
Yeah.
Especially if you can use it with a Essence Scale or something and just ward up the entire Sins board.
Yeah,
But yeah, I agree. It's a tempo deck that has a lot of dangerous stuff, a lot of pips, and Chant of Hubris. I love that card. It's a really good tempo card.
Yeah.
That just puts up the pressure in the Saurian.
Absolutely, and I think this is also one of those things where the this has really nice tempo tools as opposed to like we talked about tempo and fail step, but with Rosalia, I think some of the really big swing tempos where like they have to deal with an Anthony. They have to...
answer,
exactly.
Which is
and one thing I think is actually I think the archiving design of Grim Reminder is both really strong compared to like something with Arise or whatnot, but like it's really nice to like telegraph what a future turn is going to look like with the Grim Reminder.
All right, Kelly.
Yes, we have Kelly. Yeah, once there peeps in the chat saying they're kind of a more extreme Kodamars.
Yeah. With wards.
Yeah.
you have Pride.
And then we've got
Stirring Grave.
Yes, well, only one Infernus. But we have Dis, Saurian, Star Alliance with Ritual of Tognath, Triple Stirring Grave. This is 18 pips.
Ooh, and a bit of speed there, yeah.
Yep, we got the Double Stomp, Tertiate, Monument to Shrix, which I think is only one Shrix though, but Monument to Shrix is good.
Yeah, that's a very, very good card. No R in this one either, but this one almost like must play a little bit crushy, right? Because its Ember control is not swingy either.
Yeah.
And there's no great Ember dump here either.
Yeah.
It's like Infernus. You have Spoils of Battle. You have temporary holds and a little bit of stealing in Fiends and Jörg and Demo Alien, but
and it has a scale too.
You mean that removes Ember somehow?
No, I just meant like for like Drekker, like you can like play like the Lego Fiend, Essence Scale it, get a Drekker Reap,
but
like
these small incremental little bump downs and then 18 pips, and I think that has been a very like a telling thing for this entire lineup is that either it's someone who really likes playing these tempo decks that sets up a goal and says this is what I'm going to do, and if your decks are not efficient enough, they will do this thing every game. They will like fairly consistently do the one thing that they do. And it's definitely its own playstyle, very different from some of the earlier things we looked at in the previous matchup.
Yeah,
had very few tempo decks.
And it's got to hold the line, which also helps set that up. I think, especially in a deck with only 15 creatures.
Yeah, that's strong.
Hold the line can do a lot of work, just getting
with
a lot of cards in hand.
Yeah. No R.
No R, which is also a common theme across both these lineups.
Yep.
And then
the first
last,
ones had a little bit, yeah.
Failstone
No,
had
it was just the neutron shark, yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Bizator, which is a Dis Logos Saurian Worlds Collide with a fair game, Greater Octet, which Greater Octet is phenomenal.
Greater Octet is very good.
Obsidian Forge for key cheat. We have the Knowledge is Power with Tau papers and memory chips. So not
Library of the Damned. Yeah, so no real bursty stuff. Like it will take a long time before Knowledge's Power is like truly online. No Dr. Millie or anything like that.
Yeah, and like I have a feeling Knowledge's Power here probably pretty often is going to be archiving a card.
Archive, yeah, I think so too. Unless you get a very early memory chip and can like build it up.
Exactly. So probably not too worried about that. But if you're like if it's like a early, if you have like two cards in archive off of like memory chip and you get a Tauta Vapors, then you're probably playing Knowledge's Power like that.
So sad that this deck doesn't have a graft, because with those, the tribute and the city state interest, but with no Ember Dump and Saurian, a graft would have been so beautiful.
Well, so there's a Greater Octet here. So what are you looking, and a Buzzle. So there's plenty of options to purge a house out. So are you looking to just get rid of the Saurian?
The regrettable mid library tarot. I guess you get rid of the Dracopedo, Dracopreco. You get rid of the regrettable meteor in most matchups. You get rid of diplomacy. You get rid of, depending on matchup, axiom. Yeah, I think you get rid of the Saurian in general.
I think you're probably pretty happy to thin those houses out a little bit, and then you can keep the rest in archives if you need them.
Yeah, archive this, keep Saurian, or the other way around.
Yep, and your Logos is just going to be kind of helping you get through the.
Yeah, the Logos is the tempo play here in this deck, like because it has the extra pips from Wild Wormhole, it has a little bit of steel. It can do some bursty stuff, and you want to call it a lot with memory chip when the Igor's just throwing stuff away.
Yeah.
So I think that the Logos can play a lot of its own turns. It's true that it doesn't really have a reaping board, so it will need to really have efficient. You will need to have thinned the deck some before the Logos is really online.
Yeah, and we do have double information exchange too, which is some nice
exactly. A little bit of shift, like the Ember shift.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it has a very. Yeah, sorry.
So this also feels on this. I think this one has like some pretty interesting, more interesting lines, but this also feels tempo-y.
Yep, I agree.
Where it looks like it's it's getting incremental advantage off stuff like the Greater Octet, but the small efficiencies in the Logos and the Igors and archiving one or two cards.
And, it has a very dead Obsidian Forge unless you have a really big archive.
Yes. Pretty, yeah. So where are the creatures? But I mean, you also have the Bloodshard. I mean, this is the deck, right, where the Bloodshard probably doesn't care, because it's going to be mostly destroying the creatures, the enemy's creatures. So it's pretty interesting lines here. So
with this in mind, looking at the two lineups, we had on one hand, we had this Rushy Crushy Kota lineup that I don't see many answers to in here.
It's mostly tempo plays and not a ton of big swings or for scaling amber control. The only scaling amber control available is nowhere to be seen in Siths.
Yeah. So, in my estimate of the matchup is probably that either the 2 out of 3 of those Kota decks will be banned, and we'll just have to deal with these really tough decks that the other person is running.
Yeah.
Or you see a chance to exploit the bad draws and simply hope that, because it could be a strategy for Sith to say, okay, let's just hope for the low roll instead of the high roll, rather than go up against these high consistency decks that yours truly is running.
Yeah.
Say, well, sometimes Rush will win, but sometimes I can win against Rush because they will draw badly, and my decks have high pace. They will put up pressure, and those Kota decks are not very reactive. Sure, they have a lot of steel, but they have a hard time like keeping that up if they can just play 2 cards every turn, and I can play 4 or 5. with some of these high efficiency tempo plays.
Yeah, I know they had some tools against it, like they had some discombobulators and some sticky boards and whatnot to just sort of like shut down some of the shadows turns. So I think, you know, against Coda Rush, they're a gamble anyways. You know, like it's sort of you're do you let them roll the dice or not? Are you willing to roll the dice?
Yeah. And for yrstruly, it becomes a case of saying which one of these tempo decks is the most dangerous one, and how few creatures am I willing to deal with? Like, do I want the low creature one or do I want the high creature one?
Exactly,
many of them will probably put up similar kinds of threats to what you're trying to do.
And
so
you know
it's become a lot of those.
You know, there is the Dark Amber Vault, but I honestly don't really see anything. Even the Dark Amber Vault itself, I don't really see anything that's super punishing to the no artifact control that, or the very low artifact control that SithofAngmar is bringing.
Yeah, because we didn't think that the Dav deck was that like super dangerous in itself. It's a little bit of a bonus, but it's not a Dav deck that can just take over the game by having Dav out.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't have 4 red pennies or something or anything like that. But yeah, I mean the.
So do we have an estimate here at the tail end of today's show?
I think I do. I think you went first last time. I think I'll go right. I'll go first this time.
Yep. You go first.
I actually have my money on SithofAngmar. I think it's going to be.
The steady tempo will outdo the potential like high value plays or bust of yrstruly.
Yeah, I think I genuinely do. I think with the negative speed, the low speed, with some good bands like the and some nice matchup maneuvering, I think the tempo is going to be enough to sort of pull them through.
Yeah, I am a little worried that there aren't enough like boards that can handle the because even the decks on yrstruly with low board control can probably deal with most of these things. There are not any like there's some with the Kirby deck, for example. Failstep had these Kirbys that could take over, but yeah, I'm worried about the lack of scaling control in Sith's lineup. So I'm once again not going to agree with you. I think that yrstruly will take it 2-1 because it will be at least one high roll game, and then one of the decks will like just be slightly better.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. I think I think for both of these ones, I think they're both going to be pretty interesting. I think I think there's some tough decisions for the banning phase on. I think there's tougher decisions for the banning phase on yrstruly than there are for Sith. So there's different directions you can go, but I think SithofAngmar's lineup generally is very consistent in what it's trying to do and how it's trying to do it.
That is true. Yep. I am a bit of a short time limit today, so I will not have so much post-episode talk here. But this was today's matchup watch. We hope that we will continue to feature some like more and more of the lower matchups and give people a chance to be in the spotlight. Where you normally don't see a lot of attention on these matches. We hope to bring some there. And we hope that you have enjoyed our analysis today.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. And we hope to see you next week on episode 3 of the Matchup Watch. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.
But that will be in 2 weeks or earlier because I will be away next week. But we will try to squeeze one in, or it will be delayed.
Absolutely. So we'll have to we'll work that out when we go live. You'll know. So that is a good reason to follow and subscribe to the stream and the YouTube channel. Hit that bell, and you can get all the notifications for us. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Thank you, SithofAngmar, who we just covered for the follow. We very, very much appreciate that. Hopefully, we did you honors in the deck analysis and the lineup analysis. And if you have any angry comments, please send them to Karen, not us.
Send all the good comments to us. Thank us for being amazing.
That's right.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone. See you around.